Hi guys, welcome to our video for Module 4, all about moving to external CSS. We've got an assignment, there'll be some glossary terms, we'll put up a required discussion for the onliners, and face-to-face in Thursday's class we'll have a little discussion. There's some reading, this video of course as a resource. Your same site root folder with those 4 or 5 pages from that last assignment, we'll use that one root folder one last time. Then in Module 5 we'll get to an all-new thing, which will be a lot of fun. Just wanted to get everybody on board with internal and external CSS, tag styles, class styles, all that we've been working on kind of one step at a time here. And we've got some links in this module to do a little research on your own for the above sea level grades. So those are down here. Some links to some new concepts that should be kind of fun, but for the basic assignment this should be fairly quick. So let's see a little bit more about CSS, and here under what to do, basically this video will walk you through how to take your internal CSS, make it external. So in the end all your CSS style rules should be external. All your HTML pages will link to that one CSS document. Let's see, check each local page for internal CSS and moving it to external. So then what we're going to do is change the background color and position of your main content div and your left sidebar, and write a little paragraph at the bottom of your index page telling me what that change was. And then here it explains the research you'll need to do for the higher grade than that, and that's all about different kinds of positioning, absolute versus relative positioning. There are some links that comment on the use of absolute positioning versus relative, and you can do some research there and then act accordingly. So here we go with moving our internal CSS to external. What we should have is that 4 or 5 page site that you have left over from assignment 3, and you can see mine's mostly the same. I've got one little difference here, and we'll talk about that. But the first thing we'll do, of course, is manage sites. I'll click out onto my desktop, and you can see I've got my folder here, yourname_3. If you've done a save as of that, save that separately from the one that you turned in for 3. You've got this one maybe out on your desktop or in a folder that you like to work from, and we'll just rename this folder yourname_4. Now of course we've got to manage that new site. I'll go into Dreamweaver. Yeah, and by virtue of changing the folder name, I've lost my background link for this page, just by virtue of changing that folder name and not managing the site. So I'm going to go up here and get new site, yourname_4, and I'll click through and name that root folder. It's on my desktop. It's called yourname_4. See if we can link to that. Yep, that's where I want it to be. We'll also be putting a CSS folder in here. I've got my 4 or 5 pages, my images folder with that background image in there. And when we do a new CSS, we'll put a CSS folder in here. For your CSS to work, it's not required that it be in a CSS folder, but I do require that for the class. I think it's a good workflow, and it makes it easy to see where all of your CSS is located. So I put a CSS folder inside my root folder. But we'll do that in a moment. In the meantime, I'll just choose this folder as my root folder for this managed site. And we're not going to FTP it anywhere just yet, so we'll click None, and my site is managed. And great, why is the background image not there? Let's find out. That would be under header. That would be under my style for header. It's images, background1.png. That should be working just fine. Let's see, images, background1.png. Yeah, that should come through. Let's just do a little refresh here, and we'll open all those up in Dreamweaver again from that managed site. There it is. Okay, for some reason that didn't want to carry through from the old one. Oh, now this one's not showing up. Let's see my internal style. Aha! Aha, when I click on header, for whatever reason, I've got this long URL in there. Let's fix that. So I'll click on header, I'll get background, I'll browse. It goes straight to my image folder because it's a managed site. I can go to my images, get background 1, and there it is, back again, just like new. I don't know if these other sites or other pages will have that same problem. Great. Okay, so the only one that I need to go back and save was fpatterns. Don't know why that had a long URL, but as much as we've worked with this site and reworked it, you may have some things like that that you'll need to go in and fix at this point. And that's one way to do it. Find out which CSS style that is. Go to that style and double-click and get that dialog box, and then you can browse and get a background image or reset any of those properties that you might need to. Now you'll notice most of my pages are just exactly the same. On fpatterns, for some reason, this H1 tag I've got as an italic. Now we can choose to use that or not in a moment. But first, let's see how to take these internal styles external, because right now on all these pages I've got internal styles. That means here in my CSS rules, they show up under this little bracketed style heading. Oh, by the way, I've got this switched on to all rather than current. That's the way that I'll typically work in a lot of these videos, using CSS styles, showing all the styles so that I can click on each one as I go. Let's see, so I've got all styles showing, and they're all internal. They're all under this bracketed style heading. Now over here in my split view in my code, that means that all those styles are up here in the head data. Inside the head data, under style type text/CSS, and Dreamweaver kind of color codes these for us, puts in HTML your styles have little brackets. Dreamweaver color codes them with the information, and they all appear up in your head data, but they all travel with this one document. That's why they're referred to as internal CSS. Now in our cascading order, these might take a higher precedent than external, but the goal that we're getting to is to eliminate as much style data from each local page as we can. That helps search engine search, helps optimize your site, helps get rid of a lot of extra code in there. And so we'll get rid of all these, and we don't have to do this up in the code. You can select all these, delete them or cut them onto your clipboard, paste them into a new CSS document, but Dreamweaver gives you this nice little automated feature that is so much better. It does a number of operations in one fell swoop. So I can select, in my CSS styles panel, I can select all those styles and go up here to my panel button, that's the 4 little lines with the arrow, panel button, and click to get this contextual menu with all those selected, highlighted with blue. I can get this item that says, or this command that says move CSS rules. It's going to do a number of things for me all at once. It's going to delete them from my head data up here. It will delete them from there. It will place them into a brand new CSS document that I can name and store wherever I like. And it will create a link up in the head data. It's going to take these multi-lines of code here. I've got, I don't know, probably a good 70 or 80 lines of code. Those will go away, and there will be one line of code there that's a link to that new CSS document. So I select these. I'll select these in my CSS styles panel. I'll click on the panel button, get the contextual menu, get the Move CSS Rules command. that gives me this dialog box. It says, do you want to move these to an existing style sheet, or do you want to make a brand new style sheet? In my case, I want a brand new one. Later on, you might have an existing one that you want to add to, which is great. But I'll create a new one right now, click OK. And since this is a managed site, it goes straight to my root folder. It's going to let me name it. And a CSS is the kind of thing that you can use to swap out colors seasonally. You can use to swap out styles in a fairly major way. But one use for CSS is you might want to change the colors every season. So I'm going to call this style sheet Fall. It's fall right now as I'm making this movie. Maybe in the spring we want to change out to some spring colors. But we'll call this Fall. And you see here in my URL, it creates the name for that CSS. Now by default, not sure why it had an HTML name up there all of a sudden. I think I clicked on that. By default, it's going to put that in my site root folder, which would be fine. It'll work there as long as that's where our link goes. As a working practice, I like to make a CSS folder and put that in the root folder, and then put my CSS in that CSS folder. And here's my URL, css/fall. Cool, let's save it there. And again, once I hit save, those styles are going to disappear from my internal head data. They'll be written into this new CSS document, and Dreamweaver will write a link in my head data to that new CSS document, all in one fell swoop. Boom, there they go. Here in my CSS panel, I get my first indication of that. This little bracketed word style has nothing under it now, no triangle over here, and a new item, fall.css, has the triangle. When I click that, I get all those same styles back. And you'll notice nothing in my design view really changed. It's linked to all those same styles, but look at this. I had some, I don't know if you were observant, you might have counted how many lines here, 70 or 80, maybe 90 lines of code. Now it just says style type equals text/CSS. That's the end of the stylistic information. And on line 10, there's a link to that new document. So umpteen lines of code have gone down to 4. Excellent. This is very efficient HTML. And right away we get into the body of the HTML here. And so anything searching this site gets to the content right away. And they can find that easily. So now what about my subsequent pages? I'll deal with these later ones first. What I can do is I can go into my CSS panel. I can select all that CSS and just delete it. Just hit the delete, or on the Mac, the backspace key. And, oh, no, it won't delete it with the delete or backspace key. I've got to select these, and in my CSS panel down here at the bottom, hit the little trash can. Click at the bottom right. It says, you're trying to delete multiple CSS rules. Are you sure you want to do this? Yeah, I am. And here's what it gives you. It gives you the straight HTML, just the little div boxes with the content in there. It looks kind of goofy right now, but it won't in a moment. In one short moment, I'm going to click my CSS panel button and go down here to this command, attach style sheet. It says, what style sheet do you want to attach? Do you want to make it a link, or do you want to import it? Do you want to make it, if I import it, I'll make it internal. No, I want a link. I want to link to an external style sheet. So now I've got to browse. I'll click browse, and it didn't quite take me to my root folder. But I'll navigate to my root folder, and I'll navigate in there, get that CSS folder, get fall CSS, and hopefully if we've managed sites correctly, I get this teeny little URL, css/fall.css. Excellent. That's just what we want. I'll hit choose. It checks to make sure this is what we want to do. We want to link to this as external CSS. There's the URL. Yep. Pow, my page is back to normal. And over here in CSS styles, you can see the bracketed word style, my internal styles. There's nothing under there, nothing at all. Fall.css, the link to that document has all my CSS rules. If I go to that split view, I'll get a similar kind of setup here. I've got style.css. There's some comment lines in here. You probably noticed these pre-made pages have some comments in there. Take some time if you like to read that. There's some good advice in there for you. And underneath the comment lines, there's where my link is, right at the end of my head data, and that's a fine place for the link as well. The first time around on that first page, it put it in line 10. Here it's in 18 on the other side of that comment. That's fine. It still does the job. We'll do the same thing with our consistency page. Select all that CSS, go to the trash can in the CSS styles panel, click it. It says, you sure you want to do it? Yep. Got our funny looking HTML. We'll go to the panel button, attach style sheet. You know where it is. Oh, look. Since it's a managed site and since we did this once, it has put it in there for us. If it doesn't do that for you, go ahead and browse. Make sure it's a link, not an import. Import will take you back to where you were before. You'll have it internally. Make it a link. Click OK. Pow. There it is. Now, the F patterns page, we had a different thing here. This was italic. The other one was just bold, not italic. And you can see in the bottom of this window, it tells us what that tag is. It's an H1. I can click on the styles that are still internal here. They're under the bracketed word style. In my split view, I've still got, because I didn't do this page yet. I didn't move these externally. I've still got my same old internal styles. But this H1's a little different. What if I like this H1? If I like it, well, I could change it. Let's see, I could select this H1 style and say move CSS rules. Now here, rather than creating a new sheet, I want to move this to an existing sheet. I'll hit browse, and it didn't take me to my root folder right away. Watch out for that. Here's my root folder. Now there's nothing in the URL, and I can go to CSS, fall.css. There's a nice short little URL that links to it. I can move this to that sheet. I'll hit choose, and it says, let me get this straight. You wanted to move this to an existing style sheet. There it is. That's the link. I'll say yes, that's what I want to do. Haha. This looks familiar. It will not overwrite the style. It will appear adjacent to the current rule. So I would have to go in and pick which one I wanted. But we could choose to store it there. And we'll get back to that issue in a moment. And oh, look at this. I'm linked to that CSS with its full complement of styles, even though I just moved that one. By virtue of moving any style, check it out in the split view, I haven't eliminated my internal styles just yet, except for that one H1 style. I haven't eliminated those, but I do have somewhere in my head data, there it is, it's toward the bottom of my head data, I do have a link. And why is it significant that this link winds up toward the bottom here, below our internal styles? This now takes precedent over the internal styles. So if I were to change something, it would take precedent. But a big part of this assignment is to get rid of all the internal styles. So here we go. Let's do that. Let's select all the internal styles. Select it and hit the little trash can, not the one in your dock. Where'd my dock go? It popped up momentarily. Not that one. You'll hit this trash can in the CSS panel. Boom. It says, you're trying to delete multiple CSS rules. Are you sure you want to? Yeah, I'm sure I want to. And nothing changed this time because I'm already linked to fall.css. That was kind of cool. And I did that because I wanted to preserve this H1. Now let's see, let's take a look here. Oh, look at that. All my H1s are italic. Ooh, let's hit save on each page. I'm getting an asterisk on each page. Save early, save often. Okay, and let's check that out. And we can now that these are all linked to the CSS, guess what cool thing we can do? We can change every page by accessing CSS from one page and changing it. I've got two H1 tags because I asked it to put a second one in there. It said, are you sure you want to move this H1 in here? We've got one already. I'm not going to delete it. And that's the one that says italic. Here's the one that's non-italic. If I like the italic, I could just select this other H1, and you can tell it's non-italic down here in the properties. As we click back and forth from each one, we can tell the difference. There's the italic one, that's the lower one. Ah, it's the lower one, it's closer in proximity. That's why it's taking precedent here. And we can just get rid of that if you want. If you want to get rid of that redundant style, there we go. Now, there was something in the assignment about changing out colors and positions of the sidebar. Right there. There's sidebar 1. And main content. Main content. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. Here's sidebar 1. These are the properties. Oh, and you can choose to display properties in various ways. You can list them A to Z. You can list all properties that are possibly available, or in A to Z order, or the two little stars, little snowflakes here, will show only the set properties. These are only the properties that we've set already. And that's kind of handy. We can see at a glance what we've got. We've got a color. Well, that's easy enough to change. And it's fall. Let's change to a nice fall color on there, perhaps. So I've changed out the color. Right now, it's a float left. That means in the browser, it's this little box. It has instructions to float to the left side. Now, you'll notice I've also got my main content selected here. Main content has a margin set on there, which happens to match with about our width of this sidebar. So our margin, I'll double click on it because this doesn't quite make sense at first. It kind of goes like a clock, top, right, bottom, left. So our left margin is 13 EMs. Let's double click on there and we'll get a little bit of a clearer picture. There it is in the box section of that dialog box that we get when we double click on a CSS rule. It says left margin 13 Ms. What's an M? It's the width of a capital letter M as the end user sees this in their browser. So this is kind of a browser dependent designation, which can be kind of good. So if all we want to do is change the positions of main content and sidebar 1, maybe for whatever reason, and this doesn't fit with our F pattern research and the chessboard research, but let's say for some reason we want to change this sidebar over to the right hand side, for whatever reason that might be. We'll need to swap out this margin of main content as well. So I'm just going to make a quick switch here. Make this 13M and make the left side 1.5M, and I'll click OK. Boom, now you can see what happened. That left margin switched to the 1.5M, skinny margin. Right margin is much wider. You can guess what I'm going to do with sidebar. So I'll click on sidebar, and if all I want to do is change the float, I can do that right down here in properties. I can just select that, highlight the word float, and then I get a pull down menu, and I can change that to right, and there it is. And that is the requirement. Oh, but by having done this in my external linked CSS, Guess what? Every single page that's linked to this CSS now has that positioning and that color. Pretty cool. While we're at it, you can change out properties in any other style here. Let's say if this is our fall color scheme, then we could change out body. That has this basic blue that's in sort of the overall background. Yeah, there it is as a background color, body. Or we could double click on it. And whoops, now this is a little misleading. When it says color here in this first type window, that's the color of your type. Overall for body, which there is white type and green type that's not showing as black because that's specified in styles that are closer in proximity to that. It's cascading. It's a cascading choice that's been made. But we want the background color. Never mind about that. We want the background color, and here's where background color is. It's not under type, the first color that you see. It's under background. And so let's swap that out to a little more autumnal color. Sure, something like so. And there it is. There's our overall background, and even in header, here's header. We might want to get rid of the background image temporarily, or you might have a different one that you've put in there. I know some of you have done this already in some of the other assignments. Excellent. But we'll just kind of get rid of that for right now. And we'll put kind of a fall background color on here. Let's see. Oh, something along that line, maybe. Nice and dark because we've got white type on there. Okay, so this is our fall CSS. There we go. And of course, by virtue of doing that in the linked CSS, by virtue of doing that, accessing that from any one page, we have changed the CSS, and it should take effect on all linked pages. Let me deselect that. There we go. Now we can click through, and that change has taken place on all of our linked pages. And you can do some independent research about positioning. I've used float and margin positioning here. I've used float and margin positioning. Oh, and I think we had to change the color, background color of main content. Let's see, do we have any kind of background color there? Let's see what that does for us. Now that changes only this main content window. You know, if we wanted to really change the whole background, we could also change container. I'll count that as well. Either way, for that basic grade, if you change main content like I just did, or if you go in here to container and change that background color as well. This will be a slightly different shade. There it is. Yeah. Or you could just change container and leave main content with no background if you chose to do it that way. I'll accept that as well. There we go. So we've gone in here and we've changed positioning using margins and float. Your research for the higher grade will talk about utilizing absolute positioning or relative positioning, which we'll get into next week, but I'd like you to do a little research ahead of time on that. And for the above sea level grade, you'll create a 5th page or 6th page, as it may be, an additional page, link that, and talk about what you learned in your research. And you can read more about that in the module. But in this video, we have deleted our internal styles up here. We have moved those to external, created a new .css document in a CSS folder inside our root folder. We have linked each and every page to that external style, and we've made some changes in that external style. Hopefully this will be a quick assignment. The tough part may be that research on absolute and relative positioning. And good luck with this one, and we'll see you when you turn this in. Thanks.